Hello, Chasers. Fellow Chaser here, Joe Fox. Just wanted to put out a Forest Fenn Treasure video for your amusement. Uh, Full disclosure, these are my thoughts and opinions. Your thoughts and opinions may differ, and that's fine. So watch, enjoy. If you like what you see here, uh, hit like, subscribe. Thank you very much.
I wanted to discuss a subject that I haven't seen a whole lot of information on, um, and that's setting up partnerships and teams. Uh, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information, and to me, it seems like there should be a lot more discussion and more energy about this subject that a lot of people either tiptoe around or just flat out don't want to talk about, but they probably should. And these are my thoughts and my opinions on setting up teams or partnerships and what considerations you might think about before hopping in. So these are some of the things that I think we need to take into consideration when forming a partnership for a team. Trust level has to be really high. You have to really trust the people that you're working with. Well, to some extent, you need to trust them. Um, the proximity to the search area, that's an important key to keep the expenses to a minimum. Um, how are you gonna divvy the time investment that this chase requires? You know, there's a lot of research to be done. There's a lot of searching that needs to be done. How do you divvy those responsibilities out to the team? Um, Another factor that needs to be discussed is skill sets. What skill sets does each team member bring to the table? You know, are they good survivalist? Are they good researcher? You know, so on and so forth. And then in conclusion, I'll have some other thoughts that I'd like to toss out there too. So trust is an important factor when deciding on team members and partnerships. You know, how well do you know the person that you're going to be working with? And you might know them from school or work, or maybe you served with them in the military. It could be one of your family members, or you could be working with a complete stranger. So, how do we deal with the people that we're working with, and how do we know that they have our best interests and we have their best interests at heart when working together? The easiest way, I guess, would be to get a lawyer and draw out a contract. Now, this is could be an expense that may have to be settled on, and maybe maybe you put it up 50-50 or whatever. Maybe you say, hey, you want to be a part of this team, you have to pay for this contract to be drawn up, and or you take it out of assuming that you find the treasure chest, you take it out at the end, and that's an expense that's reimbursed or something to that effect. Um, Now, working with family members or like friends, family, or people you've served with in the military, a handshake agreement may be good enough. You know these people fairly well, and your trust level is actually fairly high with them. So that may be good enough. But to be on the safe side, you might want to have the go the legal route and have the contracts drawn up too. Um, the good thing is with having the contract in place, you can work with basically anybody, and you're not limited to the people that you add to the team or to the partnership, which is it expands the talent that you can have working on your team, and it reduces or minimizes the risk. Um, but the last line I have there is kind of important to me when I look at adding a person to the team or adding a partnership with someone or starting a partnership. Um, is reputation more important to the person than money? Um, that to me, that's one of the I guess you would say principle. Does this person have principle, morals? You know, if money's more important to them than their reputation, you probably don't want to work with them in the first place, contract or not. If you get past the trust issues, um, Proximity to the search area, that's probably the most important part of having a good partner. If they're close to the search area, they can use minimal expenses to actually get to the area and do some searching. And being close, you can have more frequent searches. You could search, every weekend. If you're a 9 to 5er, you can get out there on one day on Saturday or one day on Sunday and hit it every weekend if you're living right in the search area. Now, that's not to say that that problem can't be overcome. I mean, if you have the resources to be able to travel to the search area, every weekend, and it doesn't really affect you, that you know that helps too. Maybe you're a airline pilot and you just happen to fly into Denver every weekend. Well, maybe you can get away for a day and go search there. But typical 9 to 5ers aren't, you know, that they don't travel that much, and finding a partner that is in a search area that could really help minimize the expenses to the search overall. So that that's one of the key factors in my humble opinion. So skill sets is probably what we're going to be thinking of when we're wanting to add a team or create a partnership. And I've created a list of the skills that or the skill sets that are most likely going to be needed. Um, you may be good at one thing and not good at another, and then that's why you would need to add a partner or create a team. Um, and these aren't in any particular order, but these are some of the skills that I've put on the list that I think are more important than others. And sure, there's other skills that could be added to this list, but I've compiled this list basically on the things that I personally believe are important. And you know, the outdoors, the outdoorsy person, the who's going to be probably doing most of your searching. Do they have outdoor survival skills? They good with wildlife? They good with in mountainous regions, obviously. Um, the next one is the medical and emergency management people. They may be a nurse, a registered nurse, or a doctor, or something to that effect. If you're on long treks, I don't anticipate that you're going to be on any really long excursions, but there is always a possibility. And accidents happen, even in the own home, even in your own home, an accident can happen. And having an emergency management person there to treat the issue would be, good. Um, the next one's researcher. I think this between searching and research, that's going to be the bulk of the time that's spent on the chase. Without a doubt, research. We all sit behind the computer and tap away at it, looking for that last little clue or that last little tidbit that everybody else is missing. Well, adding on a good researcher is it's always going to be helpful. And if you're lacking in the research area, it may not be a bad idea for you to look at somebody that has a background in research. Um, I put techno whiz here because obviously I'm a computer geek, so I obviously think that technology is going to be important. But in the field, it could be. I mean, do are you going to be using nav equipment or satellites or drones or any of that kind of stuff when you're doing the search? Well, you might need a techie along to reboot stuff or jiggle the cables or hit it with a hammer or whatever they do to work their magic. So techies might be important. Um, I think one of the unsung skills that not a lot of people discuss is cartography and mapping skills, map reading. Uh, in the chase, I believe this is going to be pretty pivotal skill to have on the team. Um, and it's kind of to some extent, a forgotten art form, but shouldn't be overlooked. Cartography and map skills are going to be huge, I believe, in the chase. Um, the other one is language skills. Reading that poem is it's so vague and so cryptic, and taking somebody that has language skills, or maybe they majored in English, and they see the words for what they are, and they can put them all together and give it the true meaning. Maybe you get lucky and find the right linguist, and they can read it through two or three times, and poof, there it is. Um, to me, language skills, those are those are important as well, and that's why I compiled this list. I think these are the main components you're going to be looking for in a team member or a partner. If you're lacking on any one of these, you might want to think about adding a team member. So time investments is going to be important in the partnership, and how to divvy the time investments. You know, how much is each member of the team going to spend on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, or how much how much money are they going to throw in on a on a monthly basis, and that could be one of the you could throw that into the time part, but resources in general. How much resources is each team member going to spend on the search? And two of the main tasks that are going to be they're going to be looked at for divvying is research and the actual searching. So are you going to split the research 50-50? Is is one team member going to do 100% of the research and none of the searching? Is the other or one of the other team members going to do 100% of the searching and none of the research? Um, that those time investments or those resource investments have to be split up, and the team has to agree on how that's going to be split up. And it may be a 50-50 or 80-20 or 100-0, but depending on the each of the team members their skill sets, and how much time is the team going to communicate? Are you going to have weekly meetings? Are you going to have a daily communication? Are you going to touch base anytime maybe an epiphany is reached and you want to touch base with your team member? Or maybe you just drop monthlies on the calendar and say, hey, we're going to meet at this time for this long every month or every week. And all those things have to be taken into consideration when picking a teammate. Are they going to be able to make this time investment or this resource investment for the betterment of the team? So there are some other thoughts and some considerations um, that we might need to think about when adding a member or creating a partnership. The first thing that comes to mind is, how do we do the split? If you're sitting behind the computer and you're doing all 100% of the research, and you're putting in, 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week doing all the research, and then you call your partner and say, "Hey, I got it. Go get it." And they they invest like an hour of their time to find it, and you kind of feel robbed. But that's where you have to discuss the split. Hey, I'm going to add you to this team, but this is part of the split that you're going to get. Or maybe you're a ground pounder and you're out there pounding every weekend doing searches and coming home exhausted, and dirty and exhausted, and telling your researchers, hey, you guys are just sitting there tapping on the keyboard. I'm the one actually out here shooting bears. You need to throw me a bone here. Yeah, that needs to be worked out. The split, I believe, needs to be worked out for a partnership or a team. You know what the split is. I mean, typically it's going to be, if you're a partnership, it's going to be 50-50, but it may not. I mean, you might add some research to somebody that's already going out every weekend and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take over your research, and if you give me 20% of the take, I'm gonna help you out. You take 80, I take 20, and all I gotta do is peck on the computer 2 hours a week, and then we get lucky, and hey, you throw me the 20%, and I didn't really have to get dirty. So that might be something you might want to look at. Or if you're a ground pounder and you don't want to spend all the time doing the research, you just want to be searching, you might say, hey, I'll give you 20% if you just, you know, outsource my resource for me, and here, take it over. And those things have to be kind of nailed down before you even jump into that partnership. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to have to liquidate the the trove. You're going to have to agree on how it's going to be liquidated. You're going to break it up into small pieces and sell each piece, or you're going to try to sell the whole thing as one lump sum. All the team members are going to have to pretty much agree on the liquidation of the trove. And one of the big things that would come up for me is, hey, reimbursement expenses. I'm traveling out to the Yellowstone, you know, 3 times a month, and eating up all this money and staying in crappy hotels and having to, you know, eat bagels with cream cheese every day. I need a little something back, you know, and that type of stuff needs to be ironed out too. How are you going to reimburse expenses? Are you going to pay out of your own pocket and then take that 50-50 split? And you know, you spent $200,000 trying to find this thing. Oh well, you take it out of your split. That kind of agreement may have to be ironed out ahead of time too. Um, I threw this last one in um, as a thought that I was having. Mainly for tax purposes. I believe this might be able to help out for tax purposes. But if your partnership or your team sets up an LLC, makes each partner a trustee in the LLC, and then if you find the treasure, you collect it on behalf of that LLC. It's not actually any one person's property, but the LLC's property, and then the trustees are kind of in charge of it. Um, if for tax purposes, I mean, you're obviously going to have to check with the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't pretend to be one, but this thought has crossed my mind more than a few times about creating an LLC. If you probably want to do it before you actually collect, or maybe during that 30-day um, cool off period, or 30 to 90-day cool off period, you want to set this thing up. I think you can set these up in like 2 weeks or something. I'm not. It could be different from state to state, but I believe you can set them up pretty quickly. You're gonna want to have a lawyer anyway if you do find the chest, so you might throw this at them. I don't know about the trustee part of it though. I don't know if you can just add and remove trustees at will. But for some reason, I thought it was pretty easy. Just add trustees to a LLC. Um, anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you found this stuff useful, please like, subscribe, please comment. I would like more more talk in the chase community about partnerships and teams, because if you're a um, solo guy out there just doing it on your own, I- you know, I think you might be missing out. I mean, even as Mr. Fenn has said, a, a, a part a part of some is better than a whole of nothing, right? So adding your skills to a team might be more beneficial to you, and than you know than not finding anything. But again, if you like this, please like, subscribe. I really did want to put out a different video, but the website that I was going to do the video on was down. It's a local county website, but really useful information on BLM, private, and national forest stuff, how to tell the difference. But anyway, like, subscribe. Thanks again.